Ah, well. Look who finally crawled out of the rubble. The ghost they buried, still breathing. You were never meant to make it this far, were you? They wrapped you in silence, stitched your mouth with mockery, and left you in the courtroom of shadows, forgotten. But silence doesn't mean surrender. It means observation. It means you've been collecting. Every laugh behind your back, filed. Every knife dressed as a handshake, logged. Every name, every date, every lie, stamped and sealed in the vault of your spine. They thought the chapter closed. They thought the evidence burned. But you are archiving pain like affidavits. And tonight, we reopen the case, not for justice, not for closure, but for exposure. So welcome to the exhibit of regret, where every MF who betrayed you prays the universe erases the receipts. You handed them the blade and smiled while doing it. That was your first mistake. Trusting cowards with a king's access, letting leeches sit on your throne while they whispered poison beneath velvet smiles. They wore your kindness like a mask, then blamed you when it cracked. Every moment you stood by them, now chalk outlines on the floor. Every truth you shared, now evidence twisted into motive. This wasn't betrayal. It was premeditated, planned behind curtains, laughed about in shadows. And you kept calling it bad timing, misunderstanding. Maybe they're just hurting. No, they weren't hurting. They were hunting. And you were the trophy. But here's what they forgot. Crime scenes remember what people erase. And yours? It still reeks of fake loyalty and shallow claps. Every laugh, every lie, still echoing in the walls like blood on tile. You didn't lose them. You uncovered them. And that, right there, was the start of your villain arc. They accused you of changing, but they never asked why. They silenced you, then called you cold for not explaining. They stabbed your trust, then mocked you for bleeding quietly. Every time you opened your mouth, it felt like standing on a witness stand. Alone, unarmed, cross-examined by people who never listened to understand. They twisted your truth into confession, your calm into guilt, your distance into arrogance. You weren't allowed to defend yourself because they had already written the verdict, guilty of being different. So you stopped speaking. You stopped proving. You let the silence build its own testimony. And in that silence, you found something sacred. Power, precision, patience. Because silence doesn't mean weakness. It means surveillance. It means the judge in you stopped arguing and started recording. They thought you were defeated, but no, you were just taking notes. And one day soon, that silence will testify louder than any scream ever could. They thought they left you in ruins, but you were never ruined. You were rewiring. Every betrayal, mapped. Every scar, measured. Every collapse, filed under necessary structural damage. You didn't just survive the fire. You studied it. Watched how the flames moved, how trust burns slower than lies, how people flinch when they realize you remember everything. They left thinking you'd stay broken. But beneath those ashes, you were drawing blueprints in blood. Silence became strategy. Grief became geometry. And revenge? Revenge became a slow calculation. Not rage, not chaos, just mathematics. You learned where people crack, where masks slip, where apologies turn to alibis. And now you walk like a vault. Every step a sealed document. Every breath, undeniable proof that pain doesn't just build character. It builds weapons. You didn't rebuild yourself to be softer. You rebuilt yourself to be bulletproof. And when the time comes, you won't raise your voice. You'll raise the evidence. You didn't scream. You archived. While they laughed, you were labeling memories like case files. While they forgot, you were engraving every moment into your marrow. The smirks, the gaslighting, the half-hearted check-ins wrapped in venom. All of it, tagged and time-stamped in the vault of your silence. You became your own investigator, your own historian. And oh, how heavy that locker grew. They moved on like nothing happened, but nothing ever left you. Not the way they looked at you when you needed them most. Not the sudden distance when your world went dark. Not the way they disappeared right after promising, "I'm always here." Their memories died in their minds, but in yours, they multiplied, like ghosts with unfinished business. You carry them, not out of bitterness, but for the record. Because one day, when they come crawling back, smiling like nothing happened, you'll have the receipts, signed by time, stamped by silence, and soaked in truth. At first, it's quiet. You rise in silence. They don't notice, too busy laughing at the ghost they created. But the universe notices everything. It watched when they mocked your breakdown. It listened when they called your healing a phase. It remembered every fake "I got you," filed right next to every vanishing act. And then it started returning the energy. Slowly, poetically, like divine irony wearing gloves. Their names start slipping from rooms they once owned. Their masks start cracking in places they can't control. And the same hands that pushed you over the edge, now clawing for something to hold on to. Because the storm you swallowed has started raining on them. They call it bad luck. You call it karma's signature. Now they want peace from the chaos they crafted. Now they want silence from the voice they tried to erase. But silence isn't available anymore. Only echoes, only consequences, only receipts, written in lightning, served cold by the cosmos. Funny, isn't it? How the roles flip when silence grows teeth. They used to question you, why you changed, why you pulled back, why you stopped begging for their presence. They called you distant after pushing you to the edge. They called you cold after icing you out first. But now you hold the questions, and they have no answers. Where were you when I broke? Why did your loyalty expire in my darkest hour? Why did my downfall feel like entertainment to you? You don't need an apology. You need the truth under oath. And trust me, their stories don't hold up in cross-examination. They fumble. They flinch. They twist timelines like dancers in a panic. But this time, you're the one holding the gavel. This isn't about revenge. It's about reversal. They put you on trial. Now they're seated in the witness box, squirming in the silence they once demanded from you. And you're just here to collect answers they can't fabricate anymore. They thought it was over. that your silence was surrender, that your absence was defeat. But some contracts come with resurrection clauses. You didn't rise for applause. You didn't return for validation. You came back because the grave they dug wasn't deep enough to hold your will. You weren't reborn. You were reformed, molten, hardened, signed by suffering and notarized by every storm they left you to weather alone. You walked out of the fire with your name sealed in thunder, not broken, boundless, no announcement, no warning, just your shadow entering rooms before your voice does. They don't recognize you anymore. Good. You didn't come back as the version they broke. You came back as the verdict. You are no longer someone who begs to be understood. You're someone they pray not to be remembered by. And the best part? You owe them nothing, not even an explanation for your resurrection, just your presence and the silence that now feels like judgment. Welcome back to the scene of the crime. Only this time, the judge wears your face. They called you unstable. Now they beg for peace. They mocked your silence. Now they drown in their own noise. Cosmic irony doesn't need a witness. It is the witness, and it never forgets the signatures on betrayal. Funny, isn't it? They erased your name from their life like it would erase the memory of what they did. But the universe filed the affidavit anyway. And now, when they stumble, when they fail, when their carefully curated masks begin to melt, they whisper, maybe this is karma. No, it's not karma. It's confirmation that the storm they thought they outran was growing teeth in your chest all along. Now you walk into rooms they thought you'd never survive, and their eyes flinch, as if seeing a ghost that came back too quiet to forgive. You don't need to confront them. The universe already did, and it presented the receipts in their own handwriting. You don't haunt them with rage. You haunt them with memory, because you became unforgettable, not for what you did, but for what they did to you. They wanted you erased, but the universe made you etched, carved into moments, burned into echoes. Every time they hear your name, their stomach turns, not from guilt, from fear. Fear that someone remembers what they tried to bury. Forgiveness? That throne was dismantled. You don't sit on mercy anymore. You sit on evidence. Cold, stacked, unshakable. They hope you've moved on. They hope time has blurred the lines. But your silence? It's high definition. You didn't forget. You just prioritized your legacy over their comfort. And now, every room you walk into feels like a retrial. Your presence alone enough to make liars sweat and masks slip. You are not bitter. You are archived. You are not angry. You are documented. And no matter how far they run, they'll never outrun the one truth they fear most. You remember. And you do not forgive. No fireworks. No curtain call. Just quiet footsteps leaving the courtroom you never asked to enter. You didn't win by shouting louder. You won by outlasting the noise, by letting silence speak, and letting truth walk beside you, undeniable, unshaken. They wanted a villain, so you gave them one. Not reckless, not vengeful, refined. Crafted by every backstab, every dismissal, every fake smile. You wear your scars like a signature now, not hidden, honored. No rage in your eyes, just memory. No crown on your head. Just posture that commands like royalty. They whisper your name differently now. With caution. With guilt. With awe. You didn't return to burn bridges. You became the storm that washed them away. Unreachable. Unbothered. Unforgiven. Case closed. Not because they were innocent, but because you no longer needed the courtroom. You outgrew it, outshined it, outlived every lie written against your name. So walk away, not as a victim, not as a survivor, but as the final page they'll never be able to rewrite. Crown on, back turned, verdict delivered. They pray the universe erases the receipts, but the universe doesn't delete. It documents, it archives. And now, so do you. You were never their closure. You were the evidence. Signed by pain, filed by silence, and stamped with the crown they'll never wear.